Hello friends, my name is Jess and welcome back to my channel, Books Past Bedtime. Today we're going to be doing my June wrap-up. Now, June was kind of an interesting reading month for me. Definitely started out the month strong. I had like 3 5-star books in a row, like I was doing great, had all this momentum, and then the Kindle Unlimited brain rot set in, and I spent the back half of the month just reading smut. I'm sure this is really not shocking to a lot of you if you've been here for a while, but yeah, so a balanced month. I did read more, like I had like a higher book count than sometimes I do, but again, the Kindle Unlimited brain rot just really had its claws in me this month, and that kind of drug my average rating down as well, because those books never get as high of a rating. Like, I like to say that Kindle Unlimited is kind of like McDonald's. Like, 1 time in 10 it's gonna be really fucking good, but the other 9 times you go are gonna be like mid to bad, you know? Like, very similar to like my Kindle Unlimited kind of average ratings. 1 in 10 is like phenomenal and it's what keeps me going back, but the other ones are just, you know, not as good as I want them to be. It is what it is. Okay, so that's kind of my like summary of June. Let's go ahead and talk about some reading stats to get us into things. So I did read a total of 13 books in June, which is fairly good. It's on the higher end of average for me this year. I read 3,265 pages and I listened to an audiobook for about 4.5 hours. This was just one singular audiobook. And as you can see by this little graph, like my book count for June was, like I said, on the higher end of average. Not my record month, but tied for second actually right now, so that's pretty good. Here is the chart of my ratings for the month. As you can see, I had a lot of 5-star reads. I had 3 5-star reads, but then I had quite a few like average, lower average reads. The next highest rating was a 2.5, which is not fun, you know. I feel like my like ratings on here never line up with what I have in my notes. My average rating for the month was a 3.3, and I did DNF 1 book this month, although a lot better than last month where I DNF like 3 or 4. All right, there's not much to talk about here with my genre chart. All 13 books I read this month were primarily romance books. Various different subgenres were represented, like historical, fantasy, and contemporary, although that's pretty typical. Fairly, like, probably even split between those. I might have read more contemporary than usual this month, but overall, they're all romance. That's all that really matters. If we're looking at the formatting of the books that I read, I did read 3 novellas, and the rest of the 10 books that I read were all novels. As far as the, like, source goes, I mentioned earlier I did listen to 1 audiobook. I read 4 physical books and I read 8 ebooks. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Looking at author and publication, I read 1 debut author actually. I read 5 authors that were new to me. Those were all from Kindle Unlimited, I think. And then I read 7 books by authors that I'd read before. As is pretty typical of me, about 2/3 of the books that I read were self-published, 9 of the 13, and then 4 were traditionally published. Pretty a typical breakdown for me, honestly. Looking at where I got my books from, I had a fairly like wide variety of places that I got books from this month, which is always good. 2 of the books I read were purchased by me this year from a bookstore. I borrowed 1 book from my roommate. I was gifted 1 book. I read 6 from Kindle Unlimited. I got 1 book from the library, and then I got 2 books from, I think, like the author's website. They're just little novellas, you know. 3 things. I actually love this chart this month. My cover color chart is so rainbow, which is so fitting for June. I love that for me. I read 4 black books, which was the biggest chunk. I read 2 blue books, 2 green books, 1 orange book, 2 pink books, 1 red book, and 1 yellow book. And I love this little chart. It's so cute. And then speaking of Pride Month, we can look at my like diversity ratings. 8 of the books that I read this month had some form of diversity within their characters or their author. All 13 books were LGBTQIA+. And 7 were no-known voices books. Again, could be all of them. It is just if the author has self-disclosed an identity that matches one found in the book that I know about. And yeah, that's pretty much all the stats I have. The other ones are boring. All the books were adult, all the books were fiction. Like, most of them were published within the last 3 years. Nothing else too interesting in the statistics area. Let's just go ahead and move on to my wrap-up. Like usual, I'm gonna rank these books from worst to best, so make sure you stick around to the end of the video to find out what my favorite book of the month was. Kind of hard to decide this month because, like I said, I have 3 5-star books that are all probably going to end up on my favorites list at the end of the year, so I love that for me. Not though when it comes to deciding which one's first, because that was very hard. But anyway, let's get into it. The first book we're going to talk about is the book that I DNF'd this month, and that was The Captive's Curse by Elliot Grayson. So a lot of times I do like an Elliot Grayson book. Like I've honestly probably read 10 to 15 of their books because they just have a ton of like romantasy stuff on KU, and I do like them generally, but every once in a while they try to do these like bully style romances, which I don't like, and I didn't really realize that that's what this was going to be. I thought it was going to be more like enemies to lovers vibes, but these two in this book were just so mean to one another. So basically this is a romantasy book where the main character gets kidnapped and held for ransom by this like notorious criminal. Unbeknownst to his kidnappers, he's a Twilight mage, which means that he basically needs to have somebody fuck him in order to keep his powers in order, or he needs to take this potion. Kidnapping, you know, sticky situation. And also he in particular is allergic to the potion that keeps him sane or whatever with his magical power. It's very convoluted and contrived, you know, to force the characters to have sex. That's the point. Listen, I'm the kind of romance reader where it's like I like things that I wouldn't necessarily want in my real life. I feel like most romance readers are like that, or can be like that, you know. So I don't want anyone to kidnap me, but I would have been okay with it had the characters like not been so mean to one another. Like the guy that kidnapped him is just like very emotionally closed off and distant. He does things that make you think that he's gonna like the character, and like the main character keeps going through things that I like wanted the captor to comfort him from, but he kept like not doing that, and he kept just being mean to him, and like very not understanding of things that were happening. He was just like treating him so poorly that I was just getting angry. I was like, okay. I kept, you know, waiting for the moment where it would be like the breakthrough and he would start to like have that emotional connection with him and like start protecting him and start comforting him and blah blah blah. No, never happened. At the 61% mark, he just was just being like way too mean to him, and I was like, okay, I can't take this anymore. I'm done reading this because it is just bringing me stress and no joy. So yeah, I DNF'd that one at 61%, and I did rate it 1 star. I do usually rate my DNFs unless I only read like 10%, because usually there's a reason why I DNF'd them, you know? So yeah, 1 star DNF. The next book I picked up was, I think, towards the middle of my Kindle Unlimited brain rot, and it's when I started getting really unhinged. And it is called A Cutie for Kinkmas by Morticia Knight. Why am I reading smut kink Christmas books in the middle of June? I can't tell ya. This book was a MLM romance with daddy kink and age play, and I haven't really read anything like that before. I was like, let me see. I didn't like it. It wasn't for me. Not my thing. This was really short. It was only like 96 pages or something, so I think that's why I was like, let's see what it was about. And it was kind of weird. I didn't like it. It basically follows this main character who's famous, and he feels like his BDSM proclivities will preclude or like will like ruin his life, ruin his career if they're found out. So he goes to this like anonymous party at a kink club and meets this guy, and they have a little romance basically, and this guy like doesn't know who he is. So I give this one 2 stars, which honestly is kind of generous. It's more like a 1.5 star book. It just wasn't for me, and it really wasn't the best written either. It was kind of just like cringe and not well like fleshed out. You know, it was only 96 pages, but not for me. Another book in my KU binge was called Something Unforgettable by Rory Maxwell. I actually read 2 books in the series. I read Something Unforgettable and Something Unprofessional, both by Rory Maxwell in this Daddy Kink Age Gap series. You might notice a theme here. These 2 were okay. Like, they were decent enough for me to read both of them and finish both of them, but honestly they were kind of forgettable. Something Unforgettable was about this kid who meets this guy through a mutual friend, and they both have like a mutual attraction to one another, but he's very awkward and shy, and so he like panics and tells this guy that he has a boyfriend when they first meet. So this guy spends like a year thinking he has a boyfriend, and he doesn't know that it was a lie until everything had just kind of like bubbles up and he figures it out, and then they like agree to go on a date and like see how things go, and they fall in love. Like, it was cute. It was fine. Nothing to write home about. Something Unprofessional is about like the friends of this other book, and it's like a boss employee situation, i.e. Something Unprofessional. It's like a PA and his boss. They also go to some anonymous kink club event and hook up without knowing who the other one is. And then at the end of the night it's revealed, and they're like, oh shit. But then of course it's too good to let go, so they have this little romance. I don't know which one I liked better. I think I cared about them both about equally, you know. They're just okay. They were just okay. 2.5 stars. Next on the list are 2 novellas that I read. They're in the Green Creek series. They take place between books 3 and 4 in the series, and that is Feral Song and Love Song Part 2. These are both kind of just interludes or prequels to book 4. You have to read them after book 3 though, because they do have spoilers. Feral Song follows Carter, who is the main character of Brother Song, the 4th book. I don't want to spoil the whole series, but basically Carter's love interest has done something to sacrifice himself for the goodness of the pack in this martyr sort of act. Carter is not having that, and he's gonna go find his mate. So that's what Feral Song is kind of about, is just this little prologue for Brother Song, which is gonna be Carter's romance. And then Love Song Part 2 follows Elizabeth, the mom, the matriarch of the werewolf pack. So this is a werewolf series, if you don't know. And kind of her relationship with her dead husband and visions she's been having of him. And he was the king of the wolves, he's a big deal, and they tragically lost him. So it's her having visions and flashbacks and getting advice from him, basically. These were both okay. I really am not in love with the novellas in this series. I don't think they're super necessary. I gave both of these books 3 stars. They're very short. They're 30 pages each. They're really just, I don't know, just kind of fluff books. They're kind of nothing. They're not necessary to read. I don't feel like they really added a lot to my experience of the series. So 3 stars, not that great. I think the book that started me down the path of my Kindle Unlimited brain rot this month was Earth Boys Are Easy by C. Rochelle. I gave this book 3 stars, and it kind of had a good premise. I thought I was really gonna like it, but it ended up just being okay and kind of drug out a little bit too long. It was almost a 400-page book, which is not something I usually pick up on KU, and this is why, because I don't really feel like you usually need 400 pages for a KU book. But this was a sci-fi, so it was all let slide. Basically, it follows a human and an alien. They meet on Earth and kind of fall in love, and the alien has to leave to go back to his home planet, and the human is no, you're not gonna leave. And he's a mad scientist kind of guy, and so he figures out how to bond himself to the alien so that when the alien teleports, the human goes with him. And so they go back to the alien's home planet, and they're what the heck? Now we're bonded together, and of course there's only one bed, and then the alien has to go on this intergalactic mission because he's a soldier, and he uncovers this whole entire conspiracy about how his government is corrupt. This one was cute. I think that this one was pretty good. So I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't terrible by any means. It was fairly well written. I think my biggest complaint about this is the main character, the human character, was really annoying. The dialogue that this author wrote was just very cringe and very there's lots of pop culture references and weird things thrown in there, and just I don't know, he was just a hyper, which is not my kind of character, not my kind of person. I don't know, there were things about it that annoyed me, and I did think it drug on too long. For what the plot was, I really don't think a lot was accomplished. I do think it could have gone farther, and I felt like the end was kind of rushed. So, this was just an okay book. I wouldn't recommend running out to read this one. Next on my list is Subtle Blood by KJ Charles. This is the 3rd book in the Will Darling Adventures series. It's the 3rd and final book. This is kind of a historical mystery romance novel with an MLM main pairing. I don't know, I really wanted to like this series, and I really have liked KJ Charles books in the past, but I just feel like the series didn't do it for me for some reason. I don't know if it's because I listened to the audiobooks and I just wasn't fully engaged with them, or if because I was reading them for a purpose and was just kind of not in the mood for it. I don't know, I just kind of was left feeling a bit meh about this series. I do think it was well written. I did find myself tuning in more when the romance kind of was happening. I think maybe that's what I didn't care about. I didn't really care about the mystery that much, and that was kind of a lot of the plot, more so than I really wanted it to be. It almost felt kind of Sherlock Holmes-y, which Sherlock Holmes is really boring to me. So I think that is kind of where my disconnect with the series was. Overall, it's just kind of a 3.5 star series for me. It was good, had good parts to it, it was well written, it just wasn't fully the book for me. Next on the list is The Romantic Agenda by Claire Kahn. I gave this book 3.5 stars as well. This is a contemporary romance following Joy, who is an asexual main character, and she's been in love with her best friend for a really long time, but he has never shown any interest in her. And he invites her to go on this holiday with him and his new girlfriend and his new girlfriend's best friend. And he kind of enlists Joy to like keep the best friend out of the way so he and the girlfriend can, you know, do their thing. And Joy agrees, mostly for selfish reasons. Like, she kind of feels like it's now or never for her to tell Malcolm, her best friend, that she's in love with him. But when she gets there, her and Fox, the best friend, decide that they're gonna fake date because they both have reasons for like not wanting Malcolm and the girlfriend to be together. So they start fake dating, but then the fake feelings become real, as they often do. Yeah, there's a lot to love about this book. I really loved that the main character was asexual. We have so few books with asexual main characters, particularly romance books with asexual characters. So I really loved that representation. I thought it was well done. There were a couple moments where things were like felt a little preachy or like educational and maybe that's just because I like already am educated on asexuality that I felt annoyed by that, and maybe people that aren't wouldn't and would think it's interesting to learn about, but I don't know, I didn't love that. I also kind of thought Joy herself was a bit annoying as a main character, and I didn't understand why she liked Malcolm. I feel like Fox was really a big redeeming part of this book. Like, he is such a good like book boyfriend. He was so cute, he's so sweet, just like very caring and emotionally intelligent. I really liked Fox a lot. Yeah, so overall, like, the characters were okay. Other than Fox, he was great. The writing was fairly good. It was kind of missing like a little bit of a spark for me, though, I will say. Like, I found myself to be like a little annoyed at things. I don't think it was a perfect book by any means, but I do think that it's worth the read if you're interested in it. And honestly, it's worth the read for the like asexuality rep and Fox. Now, the highest rated book in my little Kindle Unlimited brain rot shenanigans was A Silver Fox for Kink Miss by Colette Davison. I don't have a lot of words for this one. Honestly, plot-wise, this one was pretty similar to some of the other books on this list. It's an age gap daddy kink romance with some BDSM in it. It involves these two characters meeting anonymously at this party and going home and screwing. But our younger main character has like commitment issues, so he's like, I don't want to see you again no matter like how great this was. But then they meet up again at another event and kind of like pretend not to know each other, but then they just like never leave each other's sides after that. I don't know, I just thought that this one was really well written. I really enjoyed the characters. I thought it was really hot. I don't know, I gave this book 4 stars. Call me crazy. All right, now the next 3 books are all fully 5-star reads, so it was really difficult to rank them, but I think I'm happy with the rankings. But I feel like if you asked me on another day, it would be different. The 5-star book that I'm going to talk about first is Here We Go Again by Allison Cochran. Now, I fucking loved this book. Obviously, I gave it 5 stars. Like, it was so good. This is a sapphic road trip romance between these two girls who used to be best friends in high school, but then something happened and their friendship dissolved. And now, like, it's almost 20 years later, I think. They are both teachers at the same high school where they went to high school and are both best friends with their old English teacher who happens to be dying. And so their old English teacher requests that for his, like, dying wish, the two girls both take him on a road trip across the country to his little cottage in Maine. And despite their best judgment, they do agree because they love this English teacher like a father. And so despite their animosity towards each other, they kind of form a reluctant team to help out their teacher and have like an okay, decent time on this road trip. But of course, as they move across the country, there becomes this message of like not having any regrets and like living life to the fullest. And I think this kind of inspires our two main characters to take a look at why their friendship fell apart and why they have this animosity towards one another and begin to grow closer again and have this romance between one another, which was very, very sweet. I loved how their romance progressed. I thought it was done like very naturally, very sensically, very beautifully, very like realistically. Like, it just felt right. It felt so right and it was so good. I loved the road trip aspect, and they had been to some places that I'd been to before, which is always cool to read about. And I fell in love so much with these characters. Their English teacher is such a good character. Like, he is so great. The mental health rep in this book is so good. Like, I feel like no one writes mental health like Allison Cochran does. No one. For me personally, Allison Cochran just takes the words out of my head, puts them on the page. Crazy. Yeah, I sobbed reading this book. It definitely tugs on your emotional heartstrings a lot. It'll get ya. It got me good. Luckily, I was in public on a plane, so it's even more fun. Yeah, loved this one. 5 stars. Now, the last 2 books on this list are really the 2 that I feel like could swap around depending on the day and my mood and when you asked me. So just bear that in mind. But Next, I'm going to talk about The Prospects by K.T. Hoffman. This is a debut romance book, which is just makes it even more incredible. It's a sports romance, if you couldn't tell. Our main character, Gene, is the first openly trans player in professional baseball. Luis is his teammate, who's kind of his rival. He kind of doesn't like him, but of course they have a romance. So this is super cute. They play on a minor league team, and Gene has dreams of like making it to the majors, but he doesn't like truly internalize them because he just doesn't like believe it's possible for someone like him. And Luis is like kind of a shoe-in for majors for next season, so he's kind of jealous of Luis for that reason. And then when Luis is traded onto the team, he takes Gene's position as shortstop. So there's like, and Luis is very standoffish and kind of rude, frankly. And so Gene like finds it hard not to dislike Luis, but they have to work together because I think Gene is now on second base or something. I don't know anything. Well, I kind of know some things about baseball. I actually used to play baseball. I was a kid, so I didn't really know exactly what the outfield positions were because we would just route there like, catch the ball, you know? Anyway, basically they have to work together to try and during the game. And so they have to figure out how to get along. And so they start kind of doing like practices together and things. Their friendship develops from there and their romance from there. This book was just so cute. It was so well written. The characters were so like fully fleshed out and wonderful. It's a bit of grumpy sunshine thing going on. Of course, rivals to lovers going on. But it just became the most like precious, sweet book. Just like a testament of like queer love and queer joy and like the possibilities that are out there, you know? Like it just made me so happy to like imagine this being somebody's reality, you know? Like being able to love professional sports as like an openly trans person and play professional sports as an openly trans person, like I just hope that we live in that world one day. You know, I know things aren't going in that direction right now, but I just want this to be reality so bad. And I'm happy to live in this book as though it is reality. So isn't that what we do as readers? It's just escape into a book like this for a while and pretend the outside world is not occurring. On that note, my favorite book of the month was Heart Song by TJ Klune. This is the third book in the Green Creek series, which is TJ Klune's like Omegaverse werewolf series. All 4 books contain one larger overarching plot involving the Bennett werewolf pack, which are like basically royalty of the werewolves. But each individual book is somebody's like individual romance. So each book kind of has a starting and happy ending, you know. But the plot, the overarching like fantasy plot goes across all the books. That's what I'm trying to say. This third book I loved. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was immaculate and wonderful. It really took me by surprise because what I thought I knew what was happening in the beginning, but I didn't. I really thought that it was like going back in time. No, it has the amnesia trope in it, which I was not expecting. I had no idea. Shit's crazy. Like, I feel like I'm just like watching like an action movie when I'm reading these books. I don't even like action movies. I do like my books to have some action in them, but almost like a thriller. Like you're sitting on the edge of the seat just flipping pages like what the fuck is gonna happen next? Like this shit's crazy. It's crazy. And then within it we have this like beautiful romance between Kelly and Robbie, and it's just so cute and sweet. Like we've been seeing the two of them together since book 1, and finally like getting their story and their romance was just so sweet. And yeah, I'm never really sure how I'm gonna feel about the amnesia trope, but it really was done very well in this book. This book is also special to me because Kelly is asexual, so I loved having that representation in this book. TJ Klune does have a couple books with asexual representation, so we love that. And yeah, this book was incredible. It was amazing. This is like my ideal romantasy. Like I wish every book I read could be like this one, or like this one. Like these 2 kinds of books, a contemporary, beautiful queer romance and a wonderful, exciting romantasy. Like this is all I need in life. These two things. Loved this book. Best book of the month. And yeah, that was everything that I read in June and a little sort of wrap up of June. I will not be doing a July reset just because my life is honestly in flux right now. So I don't know what's going to happen in July, so I'm just kind of taking it one day at a time. Maybe I'll be back in August with a reset. Yeah, either way, look forward to some reading vlogs this month in July. I have quite a few things planned, and I think my next video will probably either be like talking about all the 5-star books I've read so far this year, or doing my like mid-year check-in, mid-year book freakout tag, whatever that thing's called. So yeah, that's about plan. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video and it's your first time here, I would appreciate you subscribing. Also, if you liked this video, I'd appreciate a like on it. It helps me and my channel out. You can also leave a comment. I love chatting with you guys. Let me know what the best book you read in June was. Also, if you're interested in any of these books, I do link them all in the description down below just for ease of use for you. I get a tiny commission, help support the channel. No pressure. No need, it's just there if you need it. Also, I'll have social media links in the description. Be sure to follow me on other platforms if you would like. And I think that's everything for me today, so thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.